father hated me for years and kicked me out at 17, but I skipped his funeral and my family is attacking me for it. I'm writing this here because this is heavy stuff, and I don't even know where to begin. I'm trying not to spiral, but this has been building up for a while, and I don't know what the right move is anymore. I'm married, own a small business, doing okay for myself. You'd think I'd be over all the childhood crap by now, but here I am, almost physically sick at the thought of facing the man who's at the root of most of my trauma. And now, my whole family is pressuring me to see him one last time. My father's dying, stage 4 cancer, that and a bunch of other health issues. Doctors say he might have a couple of months, maybe less. He's in and out of the hospital and apparently asking to see me. I haven't seen this man in over a decade. To be clear, my father emotionally, verbally, and mentally abused me for years. It wasn't just a few bad arguments or teenage angst. It was my entire childhood. I was the oldest, and for some reason, he made me his personal punching bag. Not physically, but sometimes I wonder if that would have been easier than what I went through. Everything I did was wrong. My tone, my clothes, my grades, even when they were perfect, my interests. He constantly tore me down, called me weak, dramatic, lazy, selfish, stupid. What does it mean to be a real man? Was his favorite line. Meanwhile, my 3 sisters were angels to him. He adored them. Everything they did, he applauded. Same with my mom. He had this charming side with them. Could be funny, affectionate, even loving. But with me, it was like I was an unwelcome guest in his life. When I was 17, a few days after high school graduation, he kicked me out. I still don't fully understand why. It was something along the lines of, "You're a man now, act like it." My mom tried to reason with him, but she was always more of a peacemaker than a protector. I left with all my clothes and my laptop. That was it. My only option was to crash at a friend's place and wait until I could move into college. I had some money saved from some jobs I'd been doing, but it wasn't much. Luckily, I got a scholarship that covered a good chunk of college, and that basically saved me. I've done well since then. Graduated, started my own business, met an amazing woman who became my wife. I'll admit, I used to resent my mom and sisters, too. I didn't understand how they didn't see what was happening, how they let him treat me that way. It took years to unpack that resentment and rebuild my relationships with them. My oldest sister was the only one who really saw what was going on. She remembers how he used to belittle me during dinner or find ways to humiliate me in front of guests. We had a long talk a couple of years ago, and for the first time, she apologized. Not for being part of it, but for seeing it and not knowing how to stop it. I don't blame the younger two as much. They were little, and they never really witnessed the worst of it. They got the good dad version, so of course, their version of reality is skewed. My mom is more complicated. She's loving, but was passive for most of my childhood. I don't know what her deal was, but it felt more like she was trying to keep the peace than protect me. But that's the past, and now we're here. My father is dying, and he wants to see me. Has been asking for me. My mom, my sisters, even my uncle have told me he's mentioned my name several times. Says he wants to talk to me. What does that even mean? Is it some kind of apology, a deathbed regret, or is he just scared of dying without showing he's made amends? The thing is, I don't care. I don't care if he dies without seeing me. I'm not heartless. I just don't feel anything for him. Not anger, not sadness, nothing. The man dying in that hospital bed might share my DNA, but he's not my father in any real sense of the word. Not to me, but of course, my family doesn't see it that way. My mom and younger sisters have been calling constantly, begging me to go, even just once. Saying it would give him peace, give them peace, that he's not the same man anymore. I'm sorry, but people don't change after 60-something years just because their body is giving out. You can't spit on someone for decades and then ask them to dry your tears when you're scared of dying. My wife has been amazing through all this. She told me she'll support whatever I decide. She thinks maybe I should go. Just once, for my own closure, but also said she'd understand if I didn't. And she meant it. My oldest sister, she's the only one who hasn't pressured me. We got coffee last week, and when I told her everything, how even thinking about seeing him again made me sick, I broke down. I told her I can't forgive him. She just nodded and said, "You don't have to." She offered to talk to the rest of the family, get them off my back. So, Reddit, what would you do? Do I owe him this last visit? Do I owe my family the performance of closure just so they can feel better about his legacy? Or do I maintain my boundaries and preserve what little is left of my mental stability? This man ruined a huge chunk of my early life. I rebuilt myself from the ashes he left, and now he wants a moment of peace, like it's something I should just give him. My gut says I shouldn't give him anything, but thoughts? Is it worth it or not? Edit. Some people have asked for examples of my dad's abuse, so here are a few. Besides the name-calling, which was pretty typical from him, including trash bag, useless, waste of oxygen, there were also the well-planned abuses, as I like to call them. For instance, if I didn't get a perfect grade, he'd take the family out to dinner, minus me. Didn't matter if my sisters got worse grades or had nothing to celebrate, this was just to punish me. I'd have to stay in my room. And it wasn't a request, he'd lock me in until they got back. So, no bathroom breaks. I used to have a bottle with me for emergencies when that would happen. There were also smaller things like badmouthing me in front of guests or family members, embarrassing me and stuff. Like, joking I was mentally challenged and things like that. And that's just a part of everything he did. But I know if I write down everything, this post would be a book. Before continuing, don't forget to subscribe. New stories every day. Update 1. A lot of you said the same thing. If I didn't feel it in my soul, I shouldn't force myself. But I went to see him anyway. For a good reason. I wanted to see him on his deathbed. A friend told me I should see him as it might be therapeutic. Not in the sense that I forgive him and that makes me feel better, but to see him dying will be symbolic of that part of my life dying too, and I can move on. That with him dies everything he did to me, even if it's symbolic. I wanted to see if the man who ruined most of my childhood could even look me in the eye. And part of me, I'm not going to lie, wanted to see him weak. I wanted to see him vulnerable for once. Maybe just to see that the universe had finally balanced out, that karma had come around. My oldest sister drove me. She offered to wait outside the hospital room while I went in. I don't think I could have done it alone. Walking into that room was the strangest, coldest, most out-of-body thing I've done in years. He looked small, so weak, you could see his bones, how emaciated his entire body was. Don't know why that stuck with me, but it did. He looked shrunken, like a coat hanging on a hook. I half expected him to start yelling as soon as he saw me. Instead, he just looked at me, like he was checking to make sure I was real. He said my name. That's all. My actual name, not one of the degrading nicknames he used to throw at me as a kid. I didn't respond, just sat in the chair next to the bed, arms crossed, trying to hold myself together. My legs were shaking, and I felt like I was going to throw up, but I kept quiet. What followed was probably the most uncomfortable 10 minutes of my life. He talked, I listened, sort of. He said he was sorry for being hard on me, that he thought it would make me strong. He said he thought he was doing the right thing by a boy, that he didn't know how to be better because his own father was worse. Said he was proud of the man I'd become. I didn't say a word. Not one. At one point, he started crying. Tears that looked real. That's the part that got to me. Not because I felt bad, but because I didn't. It was like watching a stranger cry in front of me and waiting for me to do something. I just stared at him. Eventually, he finished talking and asked me if I could forgive him now that he didn't have much time left. I told him no. I know many won't agree with what I said next, but I wasn't going to be nice to him just because he's dying. I told him I'm glad he's dying, and that he's not going to get any peace of mind from me because I'm not interested in giving it to him. Told him he was a bad father. My mom called me the next day, crying. Apparently, he told her the visit meant everything to him. That I forgave him. Which is funny, because I didn't. Not even close. I literally did not use the word forgive once, but now that's the story. He made peace with his son. And here's the kicker, he told everyone. I've been getting texts from uncles, cousins, even my childhood neighbor, all congratulating me for being the bigger man and healing. Some even said things like, "You're a good son." I couldn't be prouder. I never told him anything about healing. I never told him I loved him. I never hugged him. I sat there like a stone, said what I had to say, and then left. And yet, somehow he spun this narrative, and now everyone else believes it. That I gave him this perfect ending. And it's not like I care. He knows the truth, and he'll spend the last seconds of his life thinking of that others thought I forgave him. It matters little to me. As long as it means they'll leave me alone, fine by me. My younger sisters are over the moon about it, calling it a miracle. My mom keeps saying how happy she is that our family is whole again. This works for me, and it works for them. Telling the truth now will just bring more drama. I told my oldest sister everything, and she's furious about my father's lie. She knows what I said and didn't say because I called her immediately after the visit and told her word by word. She already tried to set the record straight with my mom, even though I didn't ask her to, but it didn't go over well. My mom said something like, "Let it be. Why ruin what little time he has left? All I care about now is knowing he died, knowing how I felt about him." Update 2. Well, the funeral happened, and I didn't go. I knew it was going to look bad to the family, but I wasn't prepared for how bad it actually got. I thought maybe people would be quietly disappointed, passive-aggressive at worst, but no. This turned into a full-blown family war against me. Let me back up a bit. A few days after my last update, my father passed away. My mom called me at 3 a.m. to let me know. I didn't say much, just, okay, and then went back to sleep. She didn't ask if I was going to the funeral, just assumed I would. Truth is, I'd already made up my mind before that call, before the hospital visit. And after the visit, after everything that transpired during the hospital visit, how my father twisted the narrative, I wasn't going to be part of that. I didn't care anymore. The first person I told was my wife. She nodded and said, "So that's that. I married well." Then, I called my oldest sister. She wasn't surprised, just asked if I was sure. I told her I was. She thanked me for letting her know before the day so she could prepare for the repercussions that would occur. She was right. The funeral was scheduled for Sunday morning. On Friday, I sent a short message in the family group chat, which I usually mute unless it's an emergency. I said, "Hey everyone, just writing to let you know I won't be attending the funeral. I appreciate you thinking of me, but I've already said my goodbyes in my own way. Please understand and respect my decision." That was it. Silence for about 2 hours before the shitstorm started. My youngest sister was first. "What? You visited him, and now you're skipping the funeral? You gave him hope, and now you do this?" Then, middle sister chimed in. "This is really disappointing. He loved you in his own way. He cried after seeing you. You have no idea what that meant to him. I can't believe you're disrespecting his memory like this." And then my mom, "Are you still angry? I get it. I failed you in some ways, too, but please, don't let your bitterness define you. He's not here anymore. Whatever he did, it can't hurt you anymore. Can't you just let him rest?" I didn't respond because I didn't think any of that deserved a response. Didn't check my phone again until Sunday night. When I finally did, my oldest sister had messaged me directly. Warned me that things had gotten heated. Apparently, after the service, someone asked where I was, and my mom said, "He couldn't face it. He's not ready yet." That sparked a whole side conversation among relatives. Cousins I barely know, aunts and uncles I haven't spoken to in years, who started speculating that I must have had some kind of secret falling out with Dad right before he died. His cousin asked my wife's sister if I was mentally okay. That part bothered me the most. Now I'm the broken one, the unstable one, the problem. Nobody says, maybe he had a good reason. Nobody says, let's ask what actually happened during his childhood. They just talk about how cold I've become, how I've distanced myself from the family, how I changed since the wedding. You know, the wedding my father wasn't invited to. I know this sounds petty, but here's the worst part. I saw the pictures from the funeral on Facebook. Mom posted an album. There's one picture in particular. My mom and sisters standing in front of the casket, cheeks streaked with tears, but holding hands. The caption: a man who loved his family with everything he had. We'll carry his strength and teachings forever. Teachings? Teachings of how to be a shitty father. What lesson was I supposed to learn from being called useless for 17 years straight? From being the family scapegoat? From watching 3 daughters get unconditional love while I was treated like a walking disappointment? And now he's the strong one? This afternoon, I got a text from my aunt, my dad's younger sister. She was one of the few people who used to show me some kindness as a kid. I thought maybe she was concerned, trying to understand. Nope, she wrote, I don't know what happened between you and your father, but I saw my brother fight to stay alive for his family. He asked for you, cried for you, and you denied him a final kindness. Maybe you'll regret that someday, maybe you won't. But I just want you to know that, to a lot of us, you're the one who turned his back on blood. That one stung more than I expected. Not because it was true, but because she should have known better. She was there. She saw how he treated me. Maybe not all of it, but enough. I wanted to respond. I really did, but I didn't. Instead, I blocked her number and left the family group chat. I'm done playing this game. They shouldn't be surprised if I don't show up to their funerals, either. The rest of my family died alongside the man I called father. I made the decision not to go to that funeral, and I don't regret it. I don't owe that man anything. Not a tear, not a memory, not a seat at his last hurrah. And if that makes me the bad guy to the family, it says more about the kind of family they are. Update 3. So, the dead man left me something. Not money, not some family heirloom, just a letter. A few handwritten pages in a battered envelope. A letter my sister found tucked away in the bottom drawer of his desk. The letter was dated a few years after I turned 17, which is the year he kicked me out. I didn't read it at first. Left it sitting there for 2 days, not sure if I even wanted to know what he had to say to me. Part of me thought maybe it would be another apology. Maybe he finally wanted to explain himself. But the longer I stared at that envelope, the more I knew it wasn't going to be anything I wanted to hear. Finally, I read it. Which, in hindsight, I'm glad I did. I'll explain why. It started like this. If you're reading this, it means I'm either gone or close enough that the truth doesn't matter anymore. And then came the rest. I never wanted a son. Never asked for one. Your mother knew this when she insisted on having you. I told her I couldn't do it, but she thought I'd eventually come around. I never did. I tried to care when you were a baby. I did, but it felt forced. It always felt forced. You reminded me too much of what I didn't want. Responsibility, permanence, the end of everything I enjoyed about my life. I resented you for existing. He actually wrote that he resented me for existing. I stopped halfway through. My hands were shaking with rage. My wife saw me and asked if I was okay. I told her I needed to be alone. Locked myself in the guest room and finished reading. You always tried so hard to get my attention. Every time you brought home a test from school or won something in school, or tried to talk to me about your stupid hobbies, I could see you wanted something from me that I just didn't have. I felt bad sometimes, but I never loved you. I didn't hate you, either. You were just there asterisk, and I wanted you gone. I suggested giving you up for adoption several times. Your mother wouldn't allow it, so I did what I could. Kept my distance. Figured eventually you'd stop trying and maybe things would get easier. This wasn't just about emotional distance or clashing personalities or tough parenting. This was deliberate, calculated. He chose to be absent, to even hate me, although he won't admit it. I was just something he never wanted. A nuisance he had to live with. Went for a walk after that. Needed to walk alone. To burn off the anger and the hurt. Called my sister and told her I'd read it. She started crying. When I got home, my wife asked what it said. I told her everything and then let her read it, too. She held me. My mom called the next day. Asked if I was coming to a celebration of life party being thrown for my father. I said no. She asked if I could reconsider, for the family. I said, he never wanted me in the family. I'm just giving him what he wanted. She hung up crying. Never saw her crying over what my father did to me though. I don't care. I'm not visiting his grave. I'm not saying his name ever again. I'm not drinking to forget him, and I'm not toasting his memory. I'm just going to keep living like I've always had to, without a father. But I will raise my son with more love than I ever knew was possible. I'll clap for every stupid little thing he does. I'll ask about his friends. I'll tell him I'm proud, even when he messes up. I'll break the cycle. I'll give my son the father I never had. And that old man in the ground? He'll be nothing more than a bad story I eventually stop telling. He'll be worm food, but I don't know if one can get indigestion. Update 4. It's been almost 2 weeks since I wrote my last update, and here I am with a new one. As much as I've tried to avoid drama, it keeps finding me. The situation with my family has only gotten more complicated. But I have a decision for my family. After posting the last update, my phone blew up. When I didn't show up at the celebration of life party for the guy the first call father, to avoid having to write something really long that deciphers it best, the backlash came in full force. I knew it was coming, but the way they've treated me over the last few days has really opened my eyes. First, my mom. She called me multiple times during the party, but I didn't answer. When I finally did, she was furious. Couldn't understand how I could abandon her after everything. How I could leave her alone with all the grief. Told me I was making her life harder, that I was punishing her for no reason. Apparently, I was supposed to show up and support her. Funny, I didn't get support when the grief was mine. For her, the simple fact that I'm her son should have been enough for me to put all this aside. At that point, my younger sisters also jumped on me. Got a barrage of angry texts. One of them called me the worst son she'd ever known, a disgrace to the family. Can't even count how many times they told me how lucky I was to have gotten the chance to say goodbye, and how I was throwing it all away. They told me I was ungrateful, that my father had always been a great man, blah blah blah. When I didn't respond, they took things to a new level. They started talking at the party about me, and it wasn't pretty. My younger sisters even went around saying I was a bad son because I wasn't worried about my mom. But here's the funny thing. The person who actually made the most sense in all of this was my oldest sister. She's always been the one who understood me the most. She saw everything growing up. When she heard what my younger sisters and mom were saying, she lost it. Confronted everyone. Told them straight up that they were wrong, that they didn't know what they were talking about. Reminded them of all the years they spent pretending our father wasn't the toxic, manipulative person he was. Told them they were blinded by the idea that he was a great man. Told them I was right not to be there, and that she didn't know what she was doing there either. Since they already got tired of making me look like the bad guy, they tried it with my oldest sister. But the truth was already there, and they couldn't shut her up. As for my oldest sister, I've been spending more time with her. I'm so thankful for her, not only for understanding me but for having my back. Now, my decision. My father is no longer around, so no one can hear from him a confession. Now, he's occupying space on Earth that could be put to much better use. However, I don't need them to hear it, they can read it too. I'm going to make a post of my dad's letter where he confesses everything. But I have a plan to do a little bit more. I've asked my sister to get something written by my father, and she told me not to worry. I'm going to have a professional validate the letter, and I'm not just going to post it but also the result. I don't want any excuses from anyone like, you could have written that letter yourself. I know my father left knowing the truth, that I wasn't forgiving him. But now the rest of the world is going to find out too, and his confession as well. I don't know how long a test like the one I want to do might take, but I'll do it as quickly as I can get something to compare it to. Update 5. The day has come, the day I finally show the aftermath of what I did with my father's memory. The test took a few days, but a professional gave me the result I was looking for, certifying that the letter was written by my father. Still, my sister knew exactly when I was going to post, so she was the first comment saying, "I found the letter in a drawer in his desk." I posted it and let the algorithms do the rest. I also did it on a day I knew people would be free, no work, no responsibilities, a Sunday afternoon. I also wanted to be comfortably situated on my couch, waiting for the messages I was sure to receive. I had two ways of processing them. I would respond to supportive messages, while those who continued to defend my father would be blocked. I could have blocked them before, but I had to remember who defended my father and who didn't, and I wanted to give some people a chance to retract. If they didn't, there was no reason to keep them in my life. And so it was. I received both types of messages. I'm not going to list all the messages from my father's side, I'll just mention the most important ones. Those have been from my mother and my younger sisters. Not only that, they also wrote to my older sister for supporting me. Blocked on the spot, with who knows what else to say. But now they can keep it to themselves, because nobody's going to read it. People have been reading their comments on my post, but the responses were so bad they ended up deleting them. I've already done everything I had to do, and I don't think I'll update again. My mother or my sisters may look for ways to contact me or write that I'm the bad guy for what I did, but at this point, I don't care. I'll just block them or call the police if they try. And they know it, because my older sister told them. So it's time to say goodbye. Thank you, and tell you not to let manipulative and cruel people like my father rule your lives.